are Confessional Magazine, and this is More to the Story, brought to you today by Iris and Bo, whose toner helps keep my laugh lines in check, because you never know what our guests are going to say. Visit irisandbo.com today and use code CONFESSIONAL for 20% off.
So much love in this heart of mine.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Confessional Magazine. I'm Taylor, and today I'm joined here with the wonderfully talented Roger Dale. Thank you so much for joining me today, Roger.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure. I'm excited.
Of course. So Roger is a singer-songwriter, but he's also a full-time civil rights attorney. And the way that he has combined the two is something that I'm so excited to get to know a little bit more about. So, Roger, when did you first get into music?
I've been into music all my life. Probably when I was around 8 years old. My mama, my biggest influence and my inspiration in life. She was the youth choir director at my hometown church, Mount Hebron. And just growing up in the church around music and seeing my mama direct the youth choir, I just, was inspired by music. I wanted to sing, but before she would allow me to sing, she made me pick an instrument. I picked the trumpet. So I had to get acclimated with the trumpet and learn to read music. And then she allowed me to start singing. I was probably around 9 or 10. And from then on, it was just, I was enamored by music. But academics was always at the forefront. My mom was like, look, you can sing all day, every day, and all night, but I need you to get your degree first. And I said, man, I just want to escape away and make this dream come true. But she was like, look, you always going to have this gift because God gave you that gift, but I need you to do this. And so she was always the driving force behind it. Though even now, she's like, I knew you would do it, but you had to do what you needed to do to get here.
And now you're doing both, which
Which
here
is
you are.
it is beyond my wildest dream. I swear. I sometimes wake up and I'm like, I'm really doing this. This is crazy.
Yeah, and so you just had your debut EP came out, and it's called Phases and Stages, and it was inspired by the insurrection, correct?
Yeah, the one of the tracks on there, "One Where One Love" was, 100%. And how it really came to be, the day January the 6th when the insurrection happened. I was working from home because of the pandemic, and I usually would work in one of the federal buildings, but we've been home for well over 16 months. But I'm working, and my mom had visited for a little longer than she usually does.
Mm-hmm.
I swear she has a sixth sense, but she didn't want to leave me. She usually leaves on a Sunday. She said, I'm gonna just stay a few more days. And I said, all right, because she was part-time before she retired. And I was working, and she walked over and she tapped me on my shoulder, because when I'm working, I usually listen to music. And she's like, turn on the news. And when I did, I went numb, because I'm working on federal legislation and things like that. And I'm like, wait a minute, you mean the federal government, the Congress has been overthrown? And for me, it was a shocking experience, because I raised my right hand to defend the Constitution, and to see that the government was being overthrown, I didn't know what to do. I felt unsafe, very insecure. I didn't know what to do. Who do I call? And my mama started crying, and that's really where my heart started breaking. And I just started writing down my feelings. And that night, above us, all we could hear was helicopters and sirens, and you could hear people screaming and yelling, chanting from both sides,
Mm-hmm.
both sides. And we're just did not leave the entire day or night, and we didn't even have an appetite. And that night I couldn't go to sleep, and just put out my journal and started, writing these things like, why does it have to be this way? And then One World, One Love is the song that resulted in it. And I was thinking about earlier, but reflecting before I got a chance to speak with you, it resonates bigger than just our country, because if you look at what's going on in Afghanistan, um, they need that love that I'm speaking about in that song,
Mm-hmm.
because One World, One Love, it's where we say that we love democracy and we love our freedom. Well, shouldn't we all have that freedom in this world if we walk it equally? So that's what this song is about. And back in January, when I was working on it with Justine and Corey, I didn't realize how profound it was, but now working in civil rights and doing what I do, it's become bigger than just the insurrection in the United States, because there are people that are innocent that are caught in a crossfire in Afghanistan. They don't have a voice, but they just want one love,
Hmm.
like for someone to step in and bring them some type of relief. And that's what I hope that this song, of my whole album, I love my album, but One World, One Love hits hard to me because I grew up in an impoverished community. And so sometimes I would always ask, well, who's going to help us? And sometimes you have to help yourself, but we get to a place where we've helped ourselves enough, and who's going to then step in and intervene? Because we all need a helping hand sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. So in that regard, how would you say, like, your being a civil rights attorney, how did that make it scary for you to actually release this? Because you know what I mean? It's such a
Yeah, it
piece
did.
of you.
Yeah, it did. It did because I've had a hard time, because I've been, like I said, I grew up around music, and then when I was 24, kind of had a crossroads where I wanted to go to law school because that's just where my path was calling and God was calling, and I went to law school and became a civil rights attorney. And 3 years ago, I decided I really need an outlet, and music has always been my relief. It's therapeutic. Just to sing, or just to sing along with one of my favorites, Chris Stapleton, Carrie Underwood.
Yes.
But then when I started writing my own stuff, it's my songs are very real because I only can write from real place. So for me, I can't sit down and say I'm going to write this song about X because I'm not feeling that. And I write every day, but I kind of have to do it when I have that feeling.
Yeah.
And so, because I'm
So
a storyteller.
so when you're writing your songs and you're getting into that process, where do you pull your inspiration from? Or it literally has to be that something happens and then it can go onto paper?
Yeah, it's something happens, and it's sometimes a responsive thing that happens. It's like an innate thing where I respond, and I have so many different post-its around my house, and I have different notebooks, and I just jot ideas. But constructively, I write songs every day, and so what I'll do is when I sit down, and it's not always about me because I'm a singer-songwriter. I love to write, but I love to sing equally. But sometimes, like, I'll think, well, my mom went through domestic violence, and so I wrote a song about domestic violence, but I wrote it from her perspective, and I would never sing it. But there's one day will be a singer that will come along, and she'll be able to get this story across for me and my mom. So that's why
Yes.
I draw on past experiences. And I've seen some things as a civil rights attorney. I draw on that. People that sometimes they're not asking for a handout, they're just asking for a hand
Mm-hmm.
to pull them up.
Yep.
And just
Some
sometimes, yeah, some
when you're
people just
stuck
want to
in
be
the well
put up.
yourself, you need.
Someone to put the hand down the well, or a rope. Not even your
Mm-hmm.
hand, sometimes just a rope to pull me back up. Not
Yep.
ask for a
And
handout, just to pull up.
that's why we're all here, and that's why it's so important to share our stories, is that we can connect more with each other, because really the heart of the matter when it comes down to it is we're
Hmm.
all human, and
Yep.
we really all can help each other. It's just a matter of taking a step back and realizing that it's bigger than yourself out there.
Yeah, it is. And that's for me, my plight in life has been seeing things outside of myself, because I've been selfish, because we all are selfish because we're human. But when we learn to empathize and sympathize and step outside of ourselves, and sometimes it's very hard, honestly, we then start to realize that what we think is hard is not, when we compare and look at other people's life.
Hmm.
Life ain't really that hard. Yeah, it's difficult, but we can find a way to work through it. But once we do we then reach back and pull somebody from the bootstraps, so we pull them up? They're not, again, not a handout, just a hand. There's
Hmm.
a difference. And so for me and my music, I'm always going to be a civil rights advocate to the day I die. But I am definitely a singer songwriter, and I'm a country singer and a country singer songwriter. So,
So
and I want to
growing up,
bring the
growing up, who would you say were your musical influences then?
growing up. So definitely Keith Urban, Garth Brooks, Brooks and Dunn, Tim McGraw, Kenny Chesney for sure. Faith Hill, Trisha Yearwood. I mean, I love 90s country
All the
music. Like all
90s
the
country
yeah,
music.
it is my
Yes.
favorite of all the time periods, like 90, like 1990, well, actually 1989 to probably 2001, I'm sorry. That time period is like anybody, I can name them all. But that was when I was growing up. My mama and I would on Saturdays just ride down the road and listen to country music and the countdown, and grew up on it. And now that I've gotten into my own element, I'm very inspired by I'm sorry, Chris Stapleton. He's one of my biggest inspirations for songwriting because
Hmm.
I'm a soul singer. I'm a country soul singer. So I just love everything that he puts out.
So I'm going to
Yeah.
put you on the spot here and you can totally hard pass. But do you have anything that you would want to sing to us a little bit?
hmm I sure do. Can I do a snippet of a Chris Stapleton?
Absolutely.
Okay, and this is my favorite one. It's Whiskey and You, and I'm gonna do the first verse. Okay. There's a bottle on the dresser by your way, and it's empty. Right now, I don't feel a thing. I'll be hurting when I wake up on the floor, but I'll be over it by noon. That's the difference between whiskey and you. One's the devil, one keeps driving me insane. At times I wonder if they ain't both the same. One's a liar, helps to hide me from my pain. One's a long gone bit of truth. That's the difference between whiskey and you.
That was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I love that. I love that you put me on the spot. You should do that all the time. That was awesome.
I
I
just
wasn't
know I
even
wouldn't
thinking.
like to be put on the spot.
I like it because I'm like, I got to think of something. This is my go-to. He's one of my biggest inspirations. So
Yeah. So now coming into it, if somebody, was looking to find the bravery or the courage to put out their own music, what kind of advice would you give to them for them moving forward and trying to make it in the music world?
I would say trust yourself and trust your instinct. And for me, it was all about having a purpose. I had a purpose when I went to law school. I had a purpose when I graduated and I sat for the bar exam. And I still have a purpose to defend and make sure that no one's civil rights or constitutional rights are taken for granted. I bring that as an attorney, like I do as a country singer-songwriter. Trust yourself because you know yourself more than anyone else does. And when something doesn't feel right, kind of acknowledge that. It's
Hmm.
and it's not about, and don't rush the process. For me, I've been doing this 3 years, and I work like I just got off work with and jumped right on with you, and I'm about to finish this and play my guitar, and I have some songs to finish because I'm doing some co-writing. Just kind of remember your reason and your purpose and your dream, and just it doesn't get easy, but it's always worth it, and just keep pushing it. It doesn't, and there's no timestamp, because I'm in my 30s and I wanted this more than anything when I was in my I was like 17, 18. But here I am and I'm living it and I'm working towards it, and every
Good for
day
you.
it's always gratifying. I love it, and I love meeting other musicians and fellow songwriters. So that just trust yourself. That's the biggest thing. Trust your instincts and trust yourself more than anything.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
such great advice. So I always like to ask this question: within the next 5 years, what's your 5-year goal or 5-year plan, both personally and professionally?
So personally, my 5-year goal is I want to go to Australia to see the Australian Open because I'm obsessed with tennis. I played in high school. And it's such a long flight, so I have to get my mind right. That's that one. And then, but I want to go so bad because summer there is in January,
Yeah,
so
it's
I
their
got
winter, right? It's like
right.
opposite.
It's
Yeah.
opposite, yeah. And so then professionally, I want to have a, lucrative publishing company. I want to go back and because there's so many talented Native American musicians like myself. So I want to go back into other Native communities like mine and find artists that want to put their music out and help them get published and just help them get noticed.
That's incredible. And we haven't even touched on this yet, but you are a Native American. Can you tell
I'm
us?
Lumbee, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
Lumbee.
what was it and what is it like being a Native American in America
Yeah,
right
it's wild.
now?
It's always been wild. I really didn't realize the difference until I went off to college because I grew up in I'm Lumbee, and my tribe. I grew up in my whole community, and when I graduated, 96% were Lumbee. So when I went to NC State, was the first time I encountered this whole gravity of race, and people would ask me, "What are you? What is your race?" And I would say, "I'm Native American," and people say, "What part?" And I'm looking at them like, "What? What do you mean what part?" Like my mom and dad are Lumbee, and they're like, so for me, that's always been a thing. But now, as a an attorney, I was the first in my first in my family to go to college, first generation, and then I went to law school. So I'm one of the few in my community. So I'm inspiring other younger kids that want to become attorneys. They're like, Roger could do it. If Roger could do it, I could do it. And I'm like, you dang right you can. And so now I'm bringing that same approach to music because, like, I have a Kaylee. She's one of my favorite young girls from back home. I've been mentoring her a little bit, and she wants to be a singer like me. And so I think that's what it's all about when I say reach back and give and pull someone up if that's what they want. Because everyone has a dream. We have a dream, and for me, I just knew that I couldn't let this music die inside me. It
And
didn't
thank
matter.
you
I
so
mean,
much for not letting it go anywhere
thank
because
you, thank you, thank
I
you
mean,
so much.
nothing brings me more joy than seeing people doing what they love. And also, you've got such talent to share that
Thank you.
thank you for not, giving up on your voice or your passion or your dream because there,
And I thank you for having me as a guest because I don't want to say that I gave up because I know that like in Job in the Bible where Job had to go through things, I knew that I want to do this when I was 18, 19, but God had other purposes for me. And I know that he has used me for greater good. And I'm okay with that. But for me to be still working as a civil rights attorney and a country singer, songwriter, I can't tell you how crazy this dream is come to life. Like it's fun. And to be
and
talking to you, talking about my music.
it's only the beginning too. It's only the beginning. Wild.
It's wild. It is crazy.
So I really want to thank you for being here today, but how can our listeners or our viewers or our readers, how can they find your music or your story on Instagram or any social media to be able to follow your journey?
Yeah, I'm on social media, Roger Dale's Music, so Instagram and Facebook, and I'm starting to get into TikTok. It's foreign to me, but I'm getting into it. And then rogerdaleofficial.com. That's where I have all my updates and all my music, and I have a video coming out this Friday for Second Chance, so I'm
That's so
excited about that.
exciting.
Yeah.
That is so exciting. So I will
So
make sure to share all of that with everybody because
thank
there's
you.
like, again, I'm repeating myself, but there's nothing quite like the joy of music and just sharing that with people.
It is. It's our
Um,
universal language. I tell people that, like, no matter where you are in the world, when you hear a song, because for me, I can speak Spanish, and there are certain Spanish songs I listen to, and they just soothe my soul. And so, it is our universal language, and
mhm.
and and I love to tell stories. I've been a storyteller since I was a little boy, so for me to get do it through music, it's just fascinating to me.
Nothing better.
Nothing better. Nothing better at all. I'm living every morning I wake up, I'm like, I'm really writing songs. This is crazy.
Good for you. And I mean, it's so encouraging to hear your story and know that you really have
Thank you.
not given up on your dreams and that like anybody listening to this can know that they should just follow their heart and trust in themselves. That's the message that I'm
That's
getting
the
from you.
message. And you know what? And that there's no time stamp on your dreams because one thing that I realized when I was in law school is that a dream deferred is not a dream denied. So just because you have to defer it does not mean you've been denied it. I had to
Mhm.
defer it to become an attorney to get to where God wanted to use me to help other people. And I have helped so many people, and I still continue to do that. But at the core of my soul, I always say that law is my purpose, but music is my passion. And so if someone wants to pursue this, they need to realize they have to have that. Because it doesn't matter your age. There's no time stamp on talent.
Amen. Amen. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much for
Thank you
joining
so
me,
much for having me.
Roger.
Thank
This
you.
was such a great chat, and it was so much fun to get to know your story a little bit better. And I just can't wait for the world to really catch on. So thank you so much, Roger. And I'm sure
Thank
that
you,
we
man.
will chat soon. And I can't wait to
Yes.
check out your new music video coming out too.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, we'll talk soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
So much love in this heart of mine.